This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
What were the 6 most outrageous moments of the Kiffin and Dooley years? We got a former player who's going to tell you next.
Go.
Welcome into another episode of Give Him 6. John Pennington, joined as always by John Wilkerson, always wearing the gear. He's from 99.1 The Sports Animal. You can pick him up online. You can pick him up here if you're in the East Tennessee area on the radio from 6 to 9, Monday through Friday on Sports Talk. John, thanks for being here.
Oh, great to be back.
And we got a VFL right there, a fella that I've come to know and enjoy doing TV with on the Sports Source, Marlon Walls. Played at Tennessee. You got there for the Kiffin year.
Yep.
You were there for the Dooley years.
Yep.
And your last year was Butch Jones' first year. But the Butch Jones experience, that deserves its own show.
Right.
So we're just going to talk about the Kiffin and Dooley years, bundle them up today, and talk about, we kind of go back through memory lane on this show. And we've been doing too many positive things. It's been great games, great coaches, people you remember. With Marlon, I thought, let's have a little fun with it. Tennessee has now evolved to the point that 2 top 10 finishes the last 3 years. Yep. You've beaten Alabama 2 of the last 3, Florida 2 of the last 3. You're back in big bowls. You get a playoff berth. We're through it, I think, so we can go back and look at some of these things and laugh a little bit at just how unbelievable it was. So we're going to get the insights of a player, and we're also going to get, you were covering it with Sports Talk, you and Jimmy Himes in the afternoons at that point. Of course, you remember the Vol Network, which now you can say some of the things you would have liked to have said at the time. But we'll have some fun with this one, hopefully. Folks, if you like what you see today, be sure to subscribe, hit the notify button, hit the like button, leave comments. If you can remember some moments that I forgot or that we forget, throw them out here. We'll have plenty of fun with it. We appreciate you watching. We're trying to build something new here just for Tennessee folks on this YouTube channel. The way they find out about it is if you subscribe and like. All right. Like I say, we're going to cover just the Kiffin and Dooley years, and I'm going to throw out some moments here, some crazy stuff. And you guys can weigh in. And then at the end, I'm going to have Marlon, since he had the pleasure of playing through all this, I'm going to let him actually lock it down 6-1, right to the most outrageous moment,
okay.
The thing that's just the most bizarre. And there were plenty of bizarre things.
There was.
Let's start with Lane Kiffin, his arrival. And the first thing he was brash, he was cocky. It was 2009, he was young. He gets here and he's shooting from the lip. He comes out at a recruiting event and claims that Urban Meyer cheated. In turn, that was actually a secondary violation on the part of Mr. Kiffin, not on Urban Meyer. He gets several secondary violations. Mike Slive came down on him in one point because he was complaining about the officiating, I believe. He also stepped into an elevator in front of media members at SEC meetings. I guess it was in Destin. And he makes a crack to Steve Spurrier, and Spurrier, right as the doors are closing in front of the media, he's like, "Look, I never did this," or he kind of turned to him and smacked him down a little bit, as I recall. Do you remember the specifics of that one?
Yeah. So, but it came out of not only the recruiting event, but also what he had done in saying that Urban Meyer had cheated by calling New Keith Richardson while he was on his official visit to Tennessee. So the thing he couldn't wait to say was, "Well, look at that. Urban had to cheat, and he still didn't get him." Well, that wasn't a violation, as you correctly point out. So they're at the SEC spring meetings. And so somebody asks him specifically in his time, "Hey, have you apologized to Urban Meyer?" And he said, "I'm still waiting for my apology from Steve Spurrier." And so, because Steve Spurrier had wondered out loud, he goes, "Well, I'm wondering if you had time to take the recruiting test that you have to take. You have to take the rules test to prove that you were up to speed." And that's something that to Spurrier that you had to do probably when you were on campus before you were introduced as a head coach. So anyhow, he said, "I am still waiting for my apology from Steve Spurrier." And then Steve Spurrier, just because the reporter pointed that out to Spurrier, and Spurrier said, "Look, I never said you cheated. All I did was wonder, is it permissible for you to go ahead and be introduced as the head coach without perhaps having taken it?" He wasn't aware that you could take it online, which is what Kiffin did. And so, but anyhow, he just said, "I never said you cheated."
Yeah, and I think that was.
It was a finger wag kind of.
Yeah, and I think it was as the doors were closing and everybody heard it, and it was
Yeah.
embarrassment.
Yeah, Gene Chiswick and another SEC coach that were standing there, and they were kind of like would rather be anywhere else.
Yeah.
And then at times they were just kind of chuckling inside the lapel of their coats.
So outside the program, we're all kind of looking at Lane Kiffin. It's like, I mean, some of the fans loved it. Anything the UT coach does, they love. I mean, they loved Derek Dooley right up to the point they didn't. They loved Butch Jones right up to the point they didn't. But you inside the program,
Yep.
what were you guys thinking of having a coach who was running his mouth and cocky? You guys loved it, didn't you?
I think you got to go back to like where Tennessee was at that moment. You just lost Philip Foreman and John Chavis and all the rest of those guys. Cook that's been there forever and was a part of like Tennessee history. It was doom and gloom, and so when you got an opportunity to get this guy in here that like defies everything you're supposed to be as a head football coach, and he's like, I'm gonna do it my way. We enjoyed it. It was the best time of our college career, if you want to say it, in that short 8 months as a teenager coming on campus, and your head coach is constantly on ESPN and being talked about.
Yeah.
That was awesome to us. And he would come into the team meeting to talk to us about it and say, hey, you better have our back. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool, honestly.
And that was the high water mark.
Yeah.
Well, you go through the rest of that year, and you play Florida close. You go down to Alabama, number 1 Alabama. You lose 12-10. You have 2 field goals, both blocked by Mount Cody, Terrence Cody. One of them hit him like mid-gut.
Yeah.
But 2 field goals blocked. You're that close to knocking off the number 1 team in the country. You go through you finish the regular season at 7-5. Okay, so if you'd knocked off Alabama, that would have been a really feather in the cap. Not just beating the number 1 team, but it wasn't a great team in terms of record. It wasn't like a 9-3 team that almost beat Alabama. You finished 7-5, get a bid to the Peach Bowl, and you guys got clubbed by Virginia Tech.
Yep.
But it sounded to people I talked to, it sounded like the team got strip clubbed by Virginia Tech. The coaches, the players, that was not really a business trip, as some would take it. I've been told that there was a whole lot of shenanigans, which if the coaches look the other way, the players are going to have fun. There's no question. But I've been told the coaches took that as a bit of a reward kind of a trip as well.
I remember thinking as a freshman during that time, man, I love bowl games. We've got to get back every year. This is a must happen. I would tell you this. One of the things that like went through my mind was, yes, the strip club thing was for real. I remember sitting there like, man, we haven't seen Virginia Tech in this thing all week, and we are in this bad boy every night. So they were much more focused than we were. But we didn't know. I didn't know what we didn't know as a freshman. I thought this is just the way it is. We go have a good time, and our bedroom checks were they wasn't very strict. So we had a good time.
Well, and you've talked to other people on those teams who said that it wasn't rare to run into the coaches out in the clubs doing their thing as well. So, all right, the party at the Peach Bowl. Then, amazingly, we're already to the end of the Kiffin era because after 1 year, USC goes through about 7 different people. Everybody turns them down. They go through every alum. Jeff Fisher, Jack Del Rio, on and on and on. It's like, no. So they finally turn to Lane Kiffin. And Kiffin says, yes, after 1 year. And then that turns into a debacle. He tries to talk to the media, and you can find the video online. There's bickering between the media.
Yep.
That's pretty amusing. Then you've got the team he's trying to talk to, and supposedly the reaction inside the team room, not great. So he's having a hard time talking to people. First of all, take us inside that meeting room when you're finding out your coach is going.
Well, you got to take it back. Like we found out before the meeting. We found out on ESPN
because he was out of town. He was having to fly back.
Yeah, it went across the ticker. Lane Kiffin accepts the USC job, and then we get a text message at like 9 something at night saying, "Hey, we have a team meeting. It's immediate. Like it's got to happen right now." I don't know if he didn't like. I don't know if he didn't know that like it's already on ESPN, so you're not telling us something we don't already know. But like the older guys, I remember being pissed They were pissed off. I remember him sitting there trying, and he's got this goofy look on his face. He looks like he's one of us. He's super young in the face. Yeah. And he's trying to calm everybody down. Hey, I want you guys to sit down. Let me tell you what's going on. And I remember guys like Seawalk, Chris Walker, and Gerald Williams kind of standing up and just like, hey, you don't need to talk in this meeting. We know what's going on. Go ahead and get on your plane and get up out of here. And he's just kind of sitting there like, well, if you guys ain't gonna let me talk, I guess I got to go ahead and roll. So it was a crazy night. Again, thinking about this as a freshman, you've got no idea this is not the way college football is supposed to look.
Right.
And so it was a crazy night. It was wild to see him sit there and like kind of take it from the team, because like literally it was guys standing up and like pointing at him like, you screwed us over. So it was a crazy night. It was a crazy night for sure. And it was one that, like I said, as a freshman, you don't understand. This is not the way college football is supposed to go.
Monte Kiffin actually,
Yep.
he actually got a chance to speak to the defense, correct?
Yep.
Do you remember what he was?
Yeah. So for us, Monte, like I respect to this day. And whenever I saw him, it was all love, because what he basically told us was like, hey, look, my son's an idiot. Literally, like he's like, man, this is a dream place. Like this is almost heaven on earth for us. And he's like, but you guys will understand one day, like when your son calls you and tell you, hey, I need you, you just go. And he was like, man, but he literally had tears running down his eyes. Whereas Lane's kind of like, man, I gotta stand here and do this real quick. He's kind of like more genuine, like, all right, man, this is gonna be tough. So we respected his meeting a lot more than we did Lane Kiffin meeting for sure.
John, the media meeting, on the other hand, there was debate. And I don't want to get into all the details. People can look that up. But just the overall tenor, you had some people. Lane was willing to speak to some of the media without cameras.
Correct.
Okay.
He was willing to speak to everybody in the room. He just didn't want there to be cameras rolling.
Which, one, it's silly. There's going to be an audio recording instead of video.
Exactly.
But you had a news director in town who won an award. Apparently he, picked up his camera and ran through gunfire. But he demanded, we won't do anything unless we can have the cameras rolling. I'm pretty sure you use audio on TV as well. Mm-hmm. I always thought that was just silly and stupid. That's cutting your nose off to spite your face. I would rather have some comment on the record than none. But anyway, it became kind of a bicker fest. And poor Bud Ford. Not often you hear anybody in the media say poor Bud Ford.
Right.
But in that case, he's trying to facilitate this thing, and everybody's leaping on him. It was brutal.
Well, it was. And just as Marlon was pointing out, this is something, you guys already knew.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a surprise.
No.
And coaches almost never, and I mean 99th percentile, never want to give their statement to the local media where they are leaving.
A going away speech.
Exactly.
You don't do the Nixon
goodbye. It's already middle of the night as far as news cycles run.
Yeah.
But anyhow, it is. This is after 9 o'clock, and then they're all right there. So, Bud Ford was in a no-win situation to begin with. But anyhow, it was all right there, and it was, okay, here's what he wants to do. He's willing to talk to you and answer your questions, but he doesn't want cameras rolling, and I have no idea why.
What's the difference?
Right, because as you mentioned, the audio's there for all of it, but again, there is video of it. So
maybe they didn't want his goofy face.
Yeah.
But, it was looking for unity within the community of those that were electronic media, and it was like, stand with me. We will not allow this to happen unless the cameras can roll. And so it really was. The optics were bad to begin with and only got worse from there. Yeah. And so for the story, the history that's been detailed, the oral history that's been told twice, and on anniversary settings where it's like it was 10 years ago, now it's 15 years. It is something that is amazing to watch, go back and listen to, digest, because it's still so unheard of that you were even put in this position to begin with. But it was just part of the incredibly surreal atmosphere on campus that night.
Well, and what you're hinting at, and this is the part we haven't gotten into yet, while all this is going on inside, outside, you got students. I wouldn't call it a riot. It's like a mini riot. It's a protest, but a mattress was burned.
Yes.
It's like I'm sure some parent somewhere was like, "You what? I'm not going to buy you a new mattress, you moron."
You can bet the poor schmo whose mattress it wasn't there.
That's when they left to the roommates.
He's studying or whatever for his next final, and it's just like he comes back, where's my mattress?
Walks in, he's like, what have my suite mates and Andy Holt done to me? Yeah, they took it out. So you've got the riot going on outside where that's burned. There are death threats phoned into the Kiffin family home. Kiffin has to be taken out of there by cops who kind of sneak him out. But that leads us to the next part of this deal. All right, that's kind of one thing. Then everybody finds out that Ed Ogeron, who's going with Lane, is calling the newcomers, the guys who've arrived on campus, and saying, he's told them, don't go to class and you'll be able to transfer to USC with us. What was the reaction to that, Marlon?
So we're in a meeting room, and again we're waiting on Kiffin to come in. So we're pissed off. Guys are upset. You got a lot of commotion going back. You got some guys like, hey man, we're gonna let them talk, and other guys like, no, we're not gonna let them. So you like literally got like guys going at each other before he even walked in the room. And so I've got a couple of freshmen right here behind me, and literally like he lifts up his phone and was like, man, Ogeron calling me right now. And so like I got Chris Walker. I'm right here. My seat's next to his. Gerald Williams right here next to me. And so they snatched the phone out of his hand and put it on speaker. And you literally hear, this is the first thing he say: do not go to class. You're coming to USC. And it's like, oh man. Hey.
Wow.
And so they just start going off on him. Man, you didn't have enough respect to say something to us. And it's just like he hangs up. And it's like they try to call him back. He won't pick up. But he's like, wow. He calls another freshman, like, well, he texts another freshman, hey, don't go to class. And it's like, man, I'm sitting there like, man, this is crazy. Like, again, thinking about it right now and how stability is supposed to be in college football and in control. And like, you're almost like a robot. It's like, how the heck did this happen? And it's not being covered the way it was. Like, it was, so a lot of, like I said, guys snatched the phone and just start going off on him. He didn't ever said a word. He just hung up and he like texted the next guy. And so what that did was it made you understand, like, man, college football is cutthroat.
Yeah.
Because this is a guy that, like, when his kids are sick, we hear about it in the meeting room. You know, he was my position coach, so we got a long relationship. We go out to eat together. Take us out to eat. We go to these restaurants, and man, it's family and it's love, and your brother, and it's like, dude, the first thing you say is don't go to class. It's like, man, that's crazy. So it was a wild night, and it's just like, again, when I even play it back now, it's like, how in the world did this happen?
I had the statute of limitations is off on that crew, so I can say this. I'm not going to name names, but I was told by somebody who worked over there years ago that somebody was there like 2 o'clock in the morning doing late work. And you could hear when somebody would walk into the coaching offices, or somebody come down, and he was like, who the hell's coming here at 2 o'clock? And he knows the coaches are back there. So he leans out and he looks, and he sees 2 female cops walking in. One of them's got a boombox. And he realizes they're not cops. they're special dancing women.
The long arm of the law.
That's right. Yeah. So that was a unique crew, the Kiffin era. All right. So that brings the curtain down, or in that night's case, maybe the curtain went up.
Right.
But that brings the curtain down on the Kiffin era.
Polar opposites.
Yes. And then it gets even more bizarre. You would think it couldn't get weirder. Then Tennessee embarks on a coaching search to end up. I think it's even more bizarre than the Schiano thing, because that was one guy. This thing that after Kiffin, Hamilton had at that point been snipped. I don't think he had much power. They're sending him to one place. You've got other people flying to this coach, other people flying to this coach, to the point that you've got coaches saying, well, if I'm so important on your list, why am I not meeting with the athletic director? David Cutcliffe tells Mike Hamilton, look, if you call me by 9 a.m., I'm in. If you wait till after, I'm not calling.
If I go to bed as the head coach here.
Yeah, I'm staying.
Yeah.
Other people wanted Cutcliffe back. Hamilton didn't. He just fired Fulmer. Of course he's not going to bring the prince back when I've just gotten rid of the king, in his view. So he doesn't make the call. It's just a madhouse. And they wind up hiring Derek Dooley. And I was doing radio with you and Jimmy at Westtown Mall.
That's right.
And
Right outside Alumni Hall.
that's exactly right. Free plug. So we did. We're there waiting for that announcement. Derek Dooley, 4-8 at Louisiana Tech. 4-8. Marlon, what was the reaction when you guys? I mean, you're seeing this. You're following ESPN. Nobody's giving you clues, I'm sure. Kippy Brown was the interim, I think.
Yep.
But you're dealing with. Well, I know he was. He should have been named the head coach. But you're watching on ESPN trying to figure this stuff out. When you find out they've hired the coach who was 4-8 at Louisiana Tech, I can't imagine that was met with a lot of joy.
ESPN is a lot of playback in this story. Again, we see on ESPN. I thought, and I still remember this to this day, like I think he was 18-19 at La Tech.
Overall,
over his couple of years. Yeah. I saw that, and I remember I had my guy, Marcellus Teague, right here next to me. And he said, Derek Dooley. And it's like we get another message. Hey, man, we got a team meeting. And it's like guys are sitting back in the meeting. And I just remember coming in, and it's just like, what in the world can this guy talk to us about? And then you hear it in the room, 18-19. He's 18-19. 18-19, La Tech. And so we didn't like the guy, not at all. Like there was nothing.
He didn't have a chance.
But at the same time, we just went through this crazy moment. We're gonna at least listen to him. Let's talk to him, and see what we got. Well, the media's in there at first, and then you're gonna do your coach spiel, and you get kind of used to that revolving door. You're gonna say all the right stuff in front of the media, and then he's like, all the cameras out. I just want to talk to the guys. And so now we sit up in our seat like, all right, give us the real. What is this gonna look like? And he's like, and this is still talked about to this day, the very first thing he says is, let's just call it what it is. You guys got effed. You got effed. And he just said it like 7 times. You got screwed. They screwed you over. Lane Kiffin screwed you over. And it's like, all right, gotcha, cool. And it's like, you look back at it like 6 months in, and it's like, no, you screwed us. That's Lane Kiffin, even with all the crazy stuff that went on and how he left. Yeah. No, you screwed us. You're wrong. So it was that's still talked about to this day. When I get around the guys and we're hanging out, it's Derek Dooley. I never forget how Teague said it. Derek Dooley. And it's like, hell, it took us a couple weeks to learn how to say his name the proper way and how. So it was.
Well, everybody jumped on board around here because his father was Vince Dooley. He said, he said britches at one point, and people like that. I was searching for something today before the show online. Somebody took me to a message board where Vol fans were sitting there going, he's installed a button on his door that'll close the door behind him so he didn't have to waste time getting up to close the door. And somebody else said, just like Saban. And then somebody else said, this guy's all business. And then by the end, the fans are saying, Derek Dooley, same way that Teague did. Now, the interesting thing, and this, John, this is where I want to go with you. One of the things that's weird about Derek Dooley is he's a sharp guy, clearly. Man's an attorney, bright guy. But it's like if everybody else was on this level, well, there's a difference between book smart and, But, I mean, if everybody's on this level, and he's on a different wavelength, it seems, down to, he would come out with the analogy, you're pouring water on the bamboo and you never know when it's going to sprout up. You're Rommel.
Where's Rommel?
You've got him, he also early on ticked off, so he said no former Vols could show up without calling first. And I remember Dave Hooker asked just a simple question. So they have to call? He gave a real smart aleck answer to begin with. It's like, how hard is this? And I thought, you're going to find out how hard it is in this market with that kind of attitude. Yeah. But he also was famous for, at one point you had like a couple of staph infections on the team. So he came out and actually his quote, let me see if I can find this. Let's see. Here it is. You had the worst shower discipline of any team I've ever been around. So he taught you guys how to shower properly to increase your shower discipline. I always thought Butch Jones with his eye discipline took a lot of heat. Shower discipline, where he said, we got in there with rag and soap. John, he just never, he never connected. Again, I don't think he was a dumb man. Marlon may argue. But he just wasn't on the right wavelength to be an SEC football coach.
Yeah, I think you phrase it perfectly in that there was just no connection.
Yeah.
Because he thought of himself up here in the ether. I mean, because he was not afraid to either say out loud or very much imply that he was the smartest man in any room in which he was present.
Yeah.
And for instance, they were expanding the complex at the time that he arrives, and all of a sudden he pulls back blueprint after blueprint. It's like, why do we look at the garbage can over here? It needs to be right over here. One of my favorite throwaway lines from Rocky II is when Rocky and Adrian are looking for a new house. They're walking through an empty living room, and he goes, "Yo, Adrian, that's a great spot for a radio right over there." I mean, it's just completely non sequitur, but that's what Dooley was doing. I mean, he had to be in control of everything, and it really was totally nuts. And you couldn't help but be enthused by the fact that there's Vince Dooley, who is just an incredible gentleman as well as winning football coach, but you find out, I think there was a lot more of his mama and Derek.
I'm glad you said that one. So he brought his dad to practice one time.
Yeah.
And we've heard about the legendary Vince Dooley, and he's broke it down to us and all the rest of this, what his dad has done. So we end up not liking the guy before we met him. And he's a Georgia guy. So it's like,
Yep.
All right, well, we got to talk to him. But, man, we talked to him for probably about 15, 20 minutes after practice. It's like, man, I like that guy. And I remember we in the locker room, guys like, oh, he must be like his mama. That's mama there, who that is right there, because there's no way those two are connected at his. Like, no, that's mama and him. So we never met his mom, but we met dad. That ain't dad.
Mom wasn't afraid to call around.
Yeah, Mama let herself be known in the press. Yeah,
Yes.
she was not hard to find in the press. He did, you always hear the term born on third base and think he had a triple.
Yeah, and that was Kiffin.
That was Kiffin,
and there
might
was a
have
lot
been
of
some
Dooley.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the other thing that you were sold on, because not only was it the button that closes the door, you don't even have to get, it's sheer genius is what it is. It's also the fact that he was so organized. Because not only was he the head football coach at Louisiana Tech at the time he was hired, he was also the athletics director. And so Mike Hamilton, rest his soul, was always a big fan of Mike's for what he wanted to do. And he did some good things, and there are other things that just didn't work out. But Mike himself, good person to me. But anyhow, he was so impressed, and he kept talking about how he had all these volumes of notebooks and folders and things. He said, you would just marvel at his organization. And it's kind of like, organization would be on page 2 of all the boxes I want my football coach to check.
That's it.
Because I would like the guy who is a wizard at X's and O's and might not remember that, I haven't put on my cleats yet as he walks out to the field.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I just thought that was what it was. You would have been so impressed with it was so clean and everything. And it's like, nah, it's not what I look for first in a football coach.
Well, and your story about him getting involved in everything, I remember there was serious discussion that he had come out and he was talking about, what do they call it, grout between bricks? Is that what it is? He was saying the grout needs to be this wide, not this wide. And I was like, well, that's a joke. And the guy was like, oh, no, that's true. That's true. Which is one of the reasons we're not going to get into Butch Jones. But when Butch Jones got here, the initial Butch Jones, everybody over there loved him because he was going around calling people in and saying, hey, what can I do to make your job easier? Coming after Dooley, that made him the hero, and then he went off the rails too. But we'll get into that another day. That's another show. But you brought up something you brought up something great. I remembered shower discipline. There's another saying from that time that was on a door that I had forgotten. What was that?
Well, I really appreciate the thought, but it was set up to where if one side of the door was open, it said opportunity.
This is the team going out of the facility,
the
right?
field itself going into the rest of the facility. Yeah. So if you leave the practice field, you're leaving. It just says.
I thought it was an outdoor. It's an indoor. Okay.
No, it was indoor the facility, but it was just said if one door was open, it said opportunity is now, and if the other door happened to be closed, and vice versa, then it was opportunity is here. But if the doors were completely closed, opportunity is nowhere.
Symbolic, huh?
So symbolic.
Opportunity is nowhere.
It's it in a nutshell, because you could see nobody else is doing this for their team, but I'm doing it for my guys.
I would tell you this if I can, like, if the transfer portal hey, listen,
85
if
out.
the transfer portal was opened in, as much as we love this place, man, there would have been a lot of guys that left. A lot of guys that left. Just the way he handled, quote unquote, the guys he brought in compared to the rest of the guys, which is now your older guys, your veteran guys, your guys that's played SEC football. allowing guys time off from the team.
One of the stories I heard was the Music
Yeah.
City Bowl. That we'll get there, but at the Music City Bowl, there were guys who had missed time, and they got their bowl bonus, whereas some walk-ons who missed one practice all year didn't get their bowl bonus.
No,
They
I'll
took
tell
care
you,
of the stars and not the little guy.
I'll tell you one that was even crazy. We had Benny Wiley as our strength coach at that time, and I was out with a torn Achilles. Me and Ben Martin was out with a torn Achilles, and they came to us at the bowl thing in Music City Bowl. Was like, "Hey man, you can't eat with the team. The team is," and so I'm looking at this guy like, whoa. You just so I had this huge blow up in the hallway. Hey man, who you think you talking to? If the team's in there, I'm going in there to go eat.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. After that whole deal, like, no, you know what? You guys can come. You and Ben can come, but the walk-ons can't. And I said, hold on, man. I said, it's snowing out there. It was snowing at Vanderbilt. But first of all, we're practicing at Vanderbilt. North Carolina's practicing at the Titans facility, inside the facility. We're practicing outside. And I don't know if Vanderbilt did this on purpose, but it was smelled like nothing but sewer that entire week. And I mean, it's snowing, John. I mean, the walk-ons are getting killed. And he's like, again, I'm coming from Kiffin's bowl practice to Derek Dooley's bowl practice. Kiffin's bowl, now, yes, some of that stuff but practice-wise, he ain't killing us. It's we're tuned in at that time.
Yeah.
Man, Dooley's running trying to run 2-a-days. And he goes to the walk-ons and say, hey, you guys can't go to the movies with the team. You can't go eat at downstairs in the hotel where we're having our meals. You can't go eat there. And so I remember I blew up at him, and then I blew up at him again because it's you're not going to tell those guys they can't go eat.
Right.
And I was a redshirt freshman, but some of the guys seemed as kind of like a leader. I would have been a starter if I hadn't torn my Achilles type deal. And so Benny Wiley, the strength coach, came into me and Ben's room because we was rooming together, and we're peed off. And Benny Wiley was like, man, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys I ain't coming back. The way he handled, he's like, man, and he's like, there's so much you guys don't even know. But to look at those guys and say, you guys can't eat with the team, you can't. You can only travel to practice with the team, but you cannot eat with them, you cannot go to the movies, you cannot go to the bowl. It's just man, this dude is insane. So that's one of those deals where it's we knew this cat's a little off his rocker a little bit.
It just doesn't make any sense in terms of team building or anything else. I mean, that's just not a.
There's petty, and then there's just flat out mean.
Yeah.
And I mean, you go back to Aaron Douglas and his decision to transfer, and that Dooley was not going to approve it unless he transferred more than 500 miles away, because that's what he feels was best for him. Because that was what was best for Derek, that he got away from home.
That would be the same for everybody.
So it would have to be more than 500 miles for him to give him the rubber stamp, and it was just that's just flat out mean, unnecessary, and just poor when it comes to being a human being.
Well, I think it's why he's not in coaching anymore. So let's get into the coaching thing. We jumped ahead to UNC. We'll actually get to the game itself in a minute.
Yeah.
But let's start with one that was kind of like it. You guys are 2-2. You're going to Baton Rouge. LSU, I think, is number 11 or number 12 in the nation. You guys were up 14-10. They had the ball at Tennessee's 1. Clock ticking down. LSU's all out of sorts. They don't know what to do with it. They get up there. They snapped at the last second. It's a shotgun snap from the 1. Fumble. You guys recover. Clock's gone.
Yeah.
People are starting to lift Dooley. Everybody's running. I mean, it's over. It is over. It's as over as it's not. Oh, wait a second. No, it is over. It's done. The announcers are going on and on about how LSU screwed up. Then, after a couple minutes, the refs say, well, we're going to look at this on tape. And what they find is they did snap the ball with a second. And Tennessee had 13, not 12.
Nope.
Yeah.
13 men on the field. And if you watch it, you'll see 3 guys run off and 5 run on. It's crazy. But literally, you had, you snagged defeat from the jaws of victory, as they say.
Yeah.
What was that like? As a team, did you think you had pulled this upset at Tiger Stadium, and then, oh no, you didn't?
Yeah, it was a looking at it now, it was a long run of disaster of this deal being over the program. But it was, what happened on that play was the defensive coordinator, and I can't think of his name right now. God, what was his name? Was
Wilcox?
that Cal? Yeah, Wilcox.
Justin Wilcox.
Wilcox is calling one thing, one formation. Derek Dooley takes it upon himself to now call a defensive formation as well. He never does that.
Yeah.
Not supposed to do that. So he's calling, I think it was like elephant or something, which is a whole different personnel. So this is why you got 5 guys coming on.
Yep.
And you got Wilcox, I think, calling like heavy or something. And so like you've got guys that's like, man, what are we,
Right.
am I on, am I off? And so like the guy, Dooley's calling his deal, and so the guys run on. And the guys that's like, all right, I know if he's on, I should be off. So it really should have been about 15 guys. Thank God those other 2 guys was like, all right, I know that if he comes on, I come off. So he was calling a defensive formation, and he's never supposed to do that, and didn't do that all season. The moment got too big, and like he panicked, and so he thought it should be one thing. And Wilcox, who is the guy that makes the calls, he's calling a different thing. So it was, and then the ball freaking snaps over the guy's head. So we're celebrating. But I tell you real quick before we.
Yeah. No,
So
jump in, man.
we would get into the team room on Sunday, right?
Yep.
And Dooley was like, this is one of the ways like he lost us. Dooley would like very famous of like, it's you guys' fault. Like you did this. He'd like name off all this stuff after the game. And we're not disciplined. And go back to the shower. Think, man, you guys are showered. So it's like we didn't like each other right away.
Yeah.
And I remember guys sitting there like before they come in, because it's usually just us in there. And guys are like, if they come in this room and say anything about us on this loss, I'm walking out, or I'm going to go off, or hell, I'm going to kill somebody. And so, and he come in and he's, well, guys, we didn't do these things. And it's just like guys stood up and said, hold on. Hey, man, you screwed us. You shouldn't have been calling this. And it's just like it. So he had a lot of run of like, it's oil and water. We just didn't mix it all. And that was one of those things that really stood out.
Perhaps it sounds like maybe they should have taken his headset privileges away, which I mentioned that because they actually did that with another coach, Chuck Smith, former Vol player, great Vol player. They brought him in for 1 year. He'd never been a coach. He'd been like a sack advisor for the Jets, a pass rush specialist advisor, which is not the same as a full-on coach. No. But they bring him in for a year, and the story's gotten around for years that they just turned his headset off. True?
Very, very true. Very true. It was, well, what would happen was whenever we put in a game plan, Wilcox would kind of like you noticed when he first got there, he's going to make his rounds around the defensive rooms. Yeah. He may spend time with the defensive backs. They spend time with the linebackers. They spend time with the defensive line. And by the time the season started, he was part in the defensive line room the entire install. And it was like Chuck put some up on the board. Hey, man, we're going to do this week when tight end trade. And you'd hear Wilcox just kind of like, nope, we're going. And so it was a little back and forth between them. And that night it overwent. It was too much. And so Chuck's trying to explain something to us. And he's, man, my headset ain't working. My head. And there's GAs walking around with their headset working. And they're like, let me get your headset. And they're like, nah, I need it. And so it was like, we're all kind of like, I think they turned you off. you don't have a headset. So
Brutal.
Man.
Brutal. Okay, we got 3 more things to cover before we get to them. I do want to thank our sponsor here, Hearthside Bank. Hearthside Bank actually is behind the entire Sports Source Digital Network, and we appreciate that. And they're behind all of these UT shows that we do, the Give Him 6, the Q&A show, and we certainly just say thank you. They have locations from Harlan, Kentucky, down through Middlesboro, Tazewell, Jacksboro, all the way down to Farragut. They're all over East Tennessee and Southeast Kentucky. Folks, these are good people. Everybody wants personal help to meet their financial needs. We all have, I wish I could just snap my fingers and, I'm prepared for retirement. I'm going to get that boat I want. You need help, and the people can help you. One-on-one, give you personal hand-holding. That's Hearthside Bank. I know these people. I can't say enough good things about them. You can learn more at hearthsidebank.com. All right. Like I say, we've got 3 more things to get to. We already mentioned the lead up to the Music City Bowl. You finished the year at, was it 6-6? Yeah. Finished the year 6-6. You get a game with North Carolina. And damned if it doesn't happen again. You guys have that thing won. Let's see. You're leading 20-17. North Carolina mismanaging the clock, same way LSU did. They're losing their minds out there. They have 100 men on the field, and they spike the ball with a second left. Clock rolls out. You guys celebrate. It's over. Then the refs look at it and say, nope, again, he did spike the ball with a second, which, okay. And they had 45 men on the field. Well, that's fine. They moved them back 5 yards, but they're still within field goal range. They kick a last-second field goal, send it to overtime, and then they beat you guys eventually in overtime. John, I'll let you pick it up here. Your thoughts on just before we get your take on what the hell that one was like, doing it again, just as a media member, as a member of the Vol Network. It's like, how can they do this to you twice? And I don't know that they were wrong in either case, but it was certainly bizarre.
It's yet another chapter of, hey, this happened to Tennessee, now we're going to amend the rule book.
Yeah,
because they took penalties on purpose in order to get to that spot, to get to that position. And so that you can't do that.
Can't do it.
So anyhow, that was amended immediately after, which, hey, that's great.
Doesn't do you any good.
So glad we were part of the case study. but without a doubt, it was just one of those things that you could not believe it, because you wanted to see the season end well for the guys that were out there doing their best, giving their all. And it just unfortunately wasn't there. I will say this, one of the most likable lines that I believe Dooley ever delivered was that he was 8-7 in post-game handshakes that season.
Good for him.
Yeah. So, but it was just another instance where it's like, how do you wind up here? How can you continually find yourself this close to chaos?
And what's amazing is this was only the beginning. In
you're
terms
not
of Tennessee
kidding.
fans, you're
Right.
thinking, how did we get here? And then it keeps going on and on and on. But if you put all this stuff, it happens at LSU, then it happens at North Carolina. We got the poster for Major League back here. And an interesting side note: the graphic artist who designed the poster for the movie Major League, UT grad. But you wouldn't have put this in a movie.
No.
It's too unbelievable.
Correct.
All this stuff is too much. So you got it happening again.
Yep.
What's the reaction in that locker room? Is it a little better because they can do this to you? We know, or was it even worse?
It was, man, when you don't believe in the coaching staff, or you literally don't like the coaching staff, you're upset. You're upset for you guys. You're not upset for the coaches. It's not a family atmosphere where it's like, man, we fought hard and it's kind of like, we got what we got. And it's a little bit different in the sense that it's like, well, we don't like that guy anyways. So the maybe he'll get fired conversation, starts behind closed doors. Yeah. And I tell you another thing like that, South Carolina, I want to say South Carolina the next year, where like they have to like carry his wife into the locker room because she's into it with the fans, because they're saying like, they're literally telling us, man, like, Tennessee, you deserve better. The fans at South Carolina are literally like, hey, as we're coming in after a tough loss, they're like, hey, man, sorry. And so he got peed off. His wife got really peed off. Yeah. And it was a doom and gloom over the program at that time.
All right, so that takes us, that's good. That takes us into the next year, 2011. But at the time, and you guys were out immediately on this guy, but now you're 2 full years in, because you're getting to the end of the season. You are 5-6. If you win, you get a bowl game. Okay. You're playing Kentucky. You have a 26-game win streak. You had not lost between 1984 and 2010 to Kentucky. You go up there, they're having to play a wide receiver at quarterback.
Yep.
And rumor has it, a couple of key players, if not more, on the Tennessee team didn't care about going to a second-rate bowl. So they really didn't care about, and it looked it. On the field, team did not look great. I mean, offensively, it looked bad. Yeah. Defensively, I think the game was, what was the final? 10-7, 7-3. I should have written that down.
Like that.
10-7.
Just ridiculous.
10-7. Defense did its part, but Marlon, truth to the fact that you had some guys who were just like, so what?
Now, I'm a defensive guy, so I only know what we talk about. But yes, I heard the rumor of like some of the offensive guys like, man, we don't want to go to the Music City Bowl. We'd rather go home. So we after that game, as always, you got a bunch of guys in the locker room that's invested in something. It was we got into it a little bit, but I never heard an offensive guy say, "Hey."
Never heard him say it.
Yeah. But we've been scoring a lot.
Yeah.
To only score 7 points.
Yeah. I always get the feeling talking to you that you believed it. You didn't. Is that fair to say that you didn't have any proof and you didn't hear anybody say it, but it wouldn't surprise you if it was true?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. It was, offensive guys are kind of, they're kind of finesse guys. Defensive guys are kind of like, all right, let's line up and go play football. So I did hear rumors of like guys like, man, we don't want to go back to the Music City Bowl. Well, I'd rather go home and go here, go to California, go here. So we heard it, but I never heard anybody physically say we're gonna throw this thing or we ain't really trying to win this thing.
Horrible loss.
Oh, it was.
To have that streak snapped like that. And Derek Dooley afterward didn't seem to understand the magnitude. It was just like, well, that's it. He didn't make a lot of comments after. It was just kind of, it's just another loss.
Yeah, and then he disappeared.
Yeah. It's like, no, that isn't just another loss.
Went dark in terms of communication.
Yeah.
Postseason, any kind of wrap-up, conclusion, you name it. I mean, it was just silent, radio silent, and everything silent for about 3 weeks. It was really something because it's like, how do you let this linger?
You're an idiot. I've gone from thinking he was smart as an attorney to thinking, well, maybe he was an idiot.
Well, and what's funny, one of the things when he was at Missouri as the offensive coordinator, he's working with Drew Lock, and he's getting on Drew because he wants to amend the sandwich as it's on the menu. And it's like, you can't do that. The chef who has spent all of this time training, getting ready for this, that's how he decides that the meal should. You are insulting him by changing what you want on how that's prepared. And it's just like, and Drew was like, well, really?
Well, he then, his demise, it was already in the cards anyway, but Justin Wilcox leaves for Washington.
Yeah.
Leaves to go be defense coordinator at Washington. And Dooley could have named Lance Thompson defensive coordinator. And everybody I've talked to over there is like, that would have been the better choice. That would have been okay.
Yep.
Instead, and there's rumors that Dave Hart, the athletic director at the time, pushed in this direction.
Great administrator.
Instead, they bring in Sal Sunseri from Alabama, a name which will live in infamy for Tennessee football. That didn't work with Mr. Sunseri, and I want to hear your take on this. The defense, I'm not trying to rattle you here, but UT allowed that year, just for people who don't remember the 2012 season, UT allowed 51 points to Georgia, 41 to Mississippi State, 44 to Alabama, 38 to South Carolina. You won a 55-48 shootout against Troy at home. Gave up 51 to Missouri, 41 in a 41-18 loss to Vanderbilt. Sunseri and Dooley are whacked, and then Jim Chaney coaches the season ender at Kentucky, and the defense actually plays pretty well again. Marlon, what was it like working under Mr. Sunseri?
It was, I would tell you this, and this is going to put it all in perspective. Who would you say is one of our biggest rivals, just as a Tennessee football?
I mean, it's Alabama, Florida.
Alabama, right? Yeah. We meet this guy, and he immediately started showing us Alabama tape. Their practices, their formations, their install. He didn't even change some. I don't know how they screwed this up with all the people that were. There are some things from our install that still had Alabama on. And so we wasn't going to buy into this immediately. Not to mention we wanted Lance Thompson and that sort of deal, but we're watching Alabama tape. And it's, hey, look at this guy.
Yeah. This
is how it should be played. He was a so-and-so and made this amount of tackles for me. And he never took into the equation dude, we're at the University of Tennessee. We got to go play them.
Yeah.
Not to mention they've been beating our head, and not to mention a guy that was on that freshman squad that lost 10-12, but we're literally watching Alabama tape. So it was immediately, and then he also brought some of his guys over that was from Alabama that played for him as GAs type deal, and so we'd have verbal altercations with them. You could tell they still were Alabama guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so if we hit a nerve where they said something, it could kind of get a whole kind of spark. So it's just it was an interesting hire. It was a very bad way to introduce your defense at the University of Tennessee, and so it was just a feud right away.
And Kiffin did some of that stuff with the USC. I remember he put up pictures of USC players in the Tennessee facility, which ticked people off. But that wasn't a Tennessee rival, at least. I can see where players don't want to see a team. Don't show me how great this team we play is. I can see that is a difference. I think it's kind of silly to put up USC pictures in a UT facility as well, but there's a difference there that USC isn't a team you have to go head-to-head with. John, your thoughts on Mr. Sunseri and that remarkable season?
Well, again, there was a wave of enthusiasm because they're like, hey, look at this guy's resume. This is what's going to happen. This is what needed to change. And then, oh my gosh, it was night and day difference in terms of expectation versus execution. And I mean, it was just mind-numbing to see how things played out the way they did, because you just didn't expect to see something like that based on all of the of everything that surrounded. Oh, this is going to be such a big hire. Watch out. This is the start of a new era.
Well, and I would say just even the way he walked into the room was kind of like I'm here. and if you know anything about football, it's legit 80% mental. I'm gonna know right away if me and you're gonna click or not. And that ain't like, all right, you're hard on us, because we expect that anyways. It's is it genuine? Is it, or is it kind of like, my thought always for him was like, this is a guy that's like, oh, I get an opportunity to go be a defense coordinator? And that's, let me go, in opposed to like thinking about it and understanding tradition at Tennessee and like understanding what you're walking into. You're walking into a bunch of guys that are kind of like, we over this cat that's hiring you. There's no connection there. So it was a bad deal from the beginning.
It's interesting. I think you've got guys, they had no respect. You hadn't fallen that far, or you hadn't been down that long. But you did hire a couple of people in a row who didn't have a great deal of respect, whether it was Sunseri, Lane Kiffin. I remember we'd done radio, and I was walking out someplace, and Pat Ryan was walking in, and sat down and talked to Pat for a while about Kiffin. He had just had a meeting with him for the first time. I said, what do you think? He said, he ain't going to be here long. This was the first time I chatted with Pat about it. He'd met him once. I said, what do you mean? He said, they're looking for bigger and better things. They're not going to put down roots here, which once again shows how perceptive and smart Pat Ryan is. But some of those guys, they got here and they just didn't appreciate the opportunity because they didn't appreciate what Tennessee was. So that was interesting. Well, I'll tell you what, do we have any other bizarro moments that we want to throw in here? Is there anything? I did leave out the stick up at the Pilot during the Lane Kiffin year. He had Jansen Jackson, Keith Richardson, and who was the other one? Mike Edwards?
Yes.
He had three guys, two of them part of his spectacular recruiting class. It's in November. It's during the season. They're arrested for attempted robbery with a pellet gun, and I remember fans were like, oh, it's a pellet gun. Yeah, I'm sure if somebody finds you at a convenience store at night and sticks a pellet gun in your ribs, you're going to go, oh, that's just a pellet gun.
The guys in the car didn't know that.
Yeah, they didn't know it was a pellet gun.
That's right. The guys that they were trying to rob.
So you had that, and the guys, they were wearing UT gear, which is really, hey, let's go rob these guys. Let's wear our UT gear. I mean, not the brightest move. But anyway, I left that one out in terms of bizarre stories.
Well, and Lane Kiffin had been so complimentary because his team had avoided off-field difficulties. He had said it. He had said it that day. This was Wednesday into Thursday morning. He had said it that day on the SEC coaches teleconference that I just want to say that I love my guys. The buy-in is outstanding. We have not had any off-field issues whatsoever. And then that happens, and it really was. It got more and more ridiculous as you heard it and how it unfolded. But I can also understand why you would leave it out, because then the show becomes give him 6 to 10 with time off for good behavior.
Well done. Well done. You're glad I remembered it. You've been working on that one. That was good. All right. Is there anything we're forgetting? Any other crazy stories, Marlon?
I will tell you, like, we would tear hotels up, visiting hotels. It was a party atmosphere, and I remember we went to go play Ole Miss, and of course that's Orgeron's, that's his baby, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, they let him come up with the game plan, and we stayed in Memphis. We stayed in Memphis that Friday night. Man, I want to say he got so into the game plan, like he grabbed the projector and like threw it against the wall. Boom, and it's like, but again, for us, it's like perfect. So we like go to the next team meeting and we're like beating on the door. Let us in, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
You guys remember how that game played out? That was a Dexter McCluster game.
I can't say it on this show, but I'll tell you afterwards. It's a shame I'm not going to say it here.
Yeah.
But I'll hint at it. Somebody I know suggested that McCluster went for like 250 yards on it or something. And somebody suggested that the Sentinel headline should have just been McCluster blank.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I still
Full circle. Wasn't that one of the
brilliant.
things that he got in trouble for at Ole Miss was that his team just trashed hotel after hotel?
That might have been, yeah. So basically, we've now got Rockstar. You basically travel like the Who. So Rockstar Rooms is now one of our possibilities. All right, I want to rank 6 to 1. So we'll start with the least outrageous, and we'll go to the most outrageous. So Marlon, this is up to you. We got Kiffin, Cocky, and Lippy. Got a party at the Peach Bowl. Kiffin's ugly exit. That's got to be high. It has to be high. Ogeron's sleazy plan. Dooley hired at 4-8. Sunseri defense. Rock starring the rooms. The blah lost to Kentucky. UNC win then lose. Smith's headset. LSU win then lose. Shower discipline. What's the if you got 6 here and then you can rank them? Are there any you would take off this list to start with? Looking for the most outrageous, most
outrageous. I'd probably take the shower discipline out. We didn't really listen to him anyways.
Shower discipline.
Yeah, we wasn't at how fast can you get done.
You liked Kiffin being cocky and lippy, so that comes off.
Yeah, that's my guy there.
All right.
I would say
Which?
Oh, just the ugly exit, and then
I
would
think
say
these two are
I think
definitely
those
in.
two have to be.
all right.
Those two have to
One
be
more
in.
time. Give me the rundown. What exactly am I picking again? Just so
You're picking the 6th most outrageous.
most outrageous.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll just find the 6 and then we'll rank them. Okay.
Ugly exit for sure.
Ogeron, texting guys.
Yeah, Ogeron texting guys. I would say.
Derek Dooley.
You got to go with the Derek Dooley.
Yeah, he's got to go in there.
All right. And then we got
I would say
the losses to LSU, North Carolina, and Kentucky. Those are games. Rockstar Rooms.
Rockstar Room for sure.
That's in there?
Yeah, we party. We went
Okay.
hard.
Sunseri defense.
Oof.
That's pretty outrageously
It's up
bad.
there. And I would say,
I mean, Chuck Smith's
Lost-
headset is
it's
that's a
kinda-
unique thing, but that's small.
That was a normal deal.
Okay. Well,
I would say, I'm just saying for
normal
us.
for at that time, yeah.
I would say LSU lost. That was a big one.
Yes.
That was a big one. I mean, we got there. 1, 2, 3.
So you need one more.
One more.
The wild Peach Bowl stuff, Sunseri
Peach Bowl.
defense,
Yeah,
North
Peach
Carolina,
Bowl.
or the
Peach Bowl.
Kentucky. Okay.
Peach
all
Bowl
right.
for sure.
All right, then I'm going to have you. We'll rank these from 6 to most outrageous. What's number?
Okay.
What's the last one on here? What's
All right,
the least
last
important?
one. I would say Ogeron Texan guys.
That's the least. Okay.
That's the least,
I would have
yeah,
thought that would have been
that's-
up there. All right, good deal. All right. So Orgeron sleazy
At that point,
plan.
you're expecting
Yeah. It's kind of compared to all the other stuff.
They have
it's
shown
like,
you who they are.
All right, so we got Dooley hired, Kiffin's ugly exit, the Rockstar treatment of rooms, LSU loss, and the party at the Peach Bowl.
I would say,
Rockstar rooms and party at the Peach Bowl kind of go together, if you're gonna. I would
Yeah.
think.
I would say like,
But we've got a plane landing on the studio
Yeah.
apparently.
I would say, let's say LSU lost.
Okay.
That tells you where,
The other stuff.
how crazy it was. Like that's kind of like, okay,
All right. So we are working our way to the most outrageous.
right. Let's go with Derek Dooley at 4-8.
Hiring Derek Dooley was the most. Okay, that's number 3 or number 4, I should say. All right.
And I say Rockstar Rooms is
Number 3.
yeah.
Just because that became a thing.
Yeah, that
All
became
right.
a thing. And then I probably say party at the, I'm going to lead that one. That's going to be the first one.
That's going to be number 1
gonna
over
be the first
the.
one.
That's wilder
We'll go-
than the
we'll go
ugly exit.
Kiffin, ugly
All right.
exit.
There you go. Well,
Them cats party.
And the fact that
We
it
ain't
was
say-
talking about the players.
the part. Okay, the
That's right.
coaches.
They got after it.
the ones that are supposed to be the adults in the room
Yeah, they got
Got
after
or
it.
just in the rooms for adults.
They got after
Yeah,
it.
they might have had some. They had some police
a
women
boombox.
down there too. Yeah. So number 1 most outrageous moment of the Kiffin Dooley years, according to Marlon Walls, was the lit atmosphere at the Peach Bowl
That's
with
it.
the
That's
coaches
it.
losing it. Kiffin's ugly exit. They rock start a whole lot of rooms. Dooley being hired at 4-8. LSU, that win turning into a loss. And Orgeron trying to talk guys into going to USC. Marlon Walls, that was fun. I appreciate you reliving.
appreciate it.
You can laugh about it now.
Yeah,
Now that
yeah.
UT's good again, you
Yeah,
can laugh about it.
you can laugh about it.
I'm sure you didn't laugh about it for a few years.
No, man, it felt like
Go to class.
felt like a dark cloud was over the program, man. It was, that was some hard times.
Much better now.
Yeah.
Marlon, tell people what you're doing. You got a business here in East Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. So I own a air duct cleaning company called Prime 58. 58 is my number. Prime is, man, we're going to do things a certain way. We're going to make sure we take care of your home. We make sure we take care of the job. Man, it's been awesome. We've gotten a lot of contact. So we've kind of grew the business a lot. But, man, we enjoy serving our families here in East Tennessee. East Tennessee has done a lot for me, not even just from a football perspective, but just like where we stay as a family and how they take care of us. So it's a pleasure of mine to take care of the community.
Been a pleasure having you on the Sports Source for years. It's good to sneak in here. We'll do it again. Thank you very much. I hope people take advantage of your business. Give this guy a call. He's as good as it gets. And this guy's not bad, too. It's always fun. We've been hosting, it's like a 25-year hiatus, but we've been hosting shows together for 30 years. Always fun having you here and talking to you for an hour. John, thank you.
I appreciate it, John. Thank you.
All right, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Give Him 6.